Have you ever wanted to visit Switzerland? How about living there? If you said yes, you're not alone. Switzerland has been named the best country in the world according to US News and World Report, and they always seem to show up in the top 5 on just about every list that ranks countries. I watched Johnny Harris and his wife Iz Harris back when she used to make videos. They love Switzerland. Matter of fact, he just made a really cool video about Switzerland's bunkers that they have from like World War II. That's amazing. But it's not just cool bunkers. Switzerland is so much more, and it's very appealing to most people. The Swiss have a nice little country there, and today we're going to look at why so many people love Switzerland. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10. It's a very happy country. According to the Global Index, Switzerland ranks as the 14th happiest country in the world. Now, other things like the UN-sponsored World Happiness Report of 2021 had Switzerland as the 3rd happiest country. They always seem to be in the top 10 of just about every single one of the lists. I would venture to say most lists have them in the top 5. Their happiness is attributed to freedom and an excellent work-life balance. This might be hard for a lot of Americans to understand, and it's a lot of Asian countries like China and Japan, but in Switzerland, not many people work more than they actually have to. Overtime's not much of a thing. From what I understand, to most Swiss people, when you tell them how you work overtime or you work, 60-hour weeks and stuff, they don't get it. They don't know why you're doing that. Number 9, they've got a healthy lifestyle. Swiss people are known for leading healthy lifestyles, and they've got a great healthcare system. Now, if you look at their diet, they eat a lot of cheese, bread, and drink wine. To some people, that might not seem that healthy, but where the difference is, let's say, compared to Americans, they eat very little sugar, and there are very few fast food places in Switzerland. It's also a very active country. They like to walk, they like to hike, they like to be outdoors doing things. Summer, spring, winter, fall, it doesn't matter to them. They get outside. Number 8. An excellent education system. The education system in Switzerland is pretty cool. In comparison to the United States, education is generally affordable here. The higher education system is renowned for its high standards and teaching methods based on active learning. Early education and innovative teaching methods are sort of Switzerland's thing. And it's not just for Swiss residents only. International students make up about 21% of the students enrolled in Swiss institutes. There are 4 official languages in Switzerland: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. Romansh isn't something they speak all the time, but most people in Switzerland speak German, French, and Italian. Number 7, it's safe. Switzerland is one of the safest countries on the planet. Now, depending on what study you look at, they're going to fall someplace between number 5 and number 14. There's been studies on why Switzerland has such a low crime rate. The higher level of education is what they attribute a lot of it to. Fewer people tend to be drawn into criminal activity when they have a high education. They usually go to work using that higher education. The Swiss people are also very laid back. They avoid commotion and confrontation. Most of their protests or anything they got like that is always very peaceful. If you ask one of their protesters what a Molotov cocktail is, they'd probably say, "It sounds delicious." Is that a rum drink or do you use peppermint schnapps? Number 6, mind-blowing scenery. Switzerland is easily one of the most beautiful countries on the planet. Tons of lakes, beautiful villages, mountain peaks that look fake. Switzerland is like the king of the hill when it comes to natural beauty in Europe. This country has the Matterhorn, a mountain peak so beautiful Disney recreated it in Anaheim, California. And that's just one of many beautiful mountain peaks that are in the Swiss Alps. Roughly 1/3 of the country is forest, and just under a quarter of that land is protected areas. Switzerland also has almost 10% of Europe's fresh water, making it kind of like Europe's drinking fountain. Number 5, a great political system. The Swiss political system is based on a collective head of state. It's a political construction that instead of settling on one president that runs the country for like 4 years like we do, the government has 7 ministers from all 4 of the most prominent political parties in Switzerland. And each year they get a new president, and it's one of the 7 ministers every single year, a new one. That stops a lot of the different stalemates that normal political systems like the United States have. They're almost forced to negotiate and compromise on different solutions for the entire country. There's a few different studies that list Switzerland as having the best political system in the world. Number 4, the outdoor activities. So like we said, the scenery in Switzerland is amazing. And this kind of leads to a lot of things people do outdoors. The skiing, the hiking, the hockey, the cross-country skiing. They also have some amazing whitewater rafting in this country. But the skiing is going to be the big thing, and it's sort of what Switzerland is known for. Number 3, the infrastructure. That's right. Switzerland is kind of the top of the heap in Europe when it comes to their infrastructure. And the jewel of that infrastructure is their public transportation. The best way to get to all the different villages and the towns in Switzerland is on their network of railway lines. I like Amtrak. I don't want to talk bad about Amtrak, but I met a Swiss man on an Amtrak train one time, and he just wanted to see the United States. That's the only reason he was there. He was seeing the United States. Actually, he said he was from Germany, but he lived in Switzerland. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But he lived in Switzerland for a while, and he said that Amtrak was kind of embarrassing compared to Switzerland and actually Germany's train system. When it comes to other parts of the infrastructure, they do great there too. You've got the roads, which have to go through the mountains. They're scenic, and they're still, well maintained and put together properly. When you look at the energy sector, the main sources of energy in Switzerland are oil, natural gas, nuclear power, and hydropower. Since 2005, Switzerland has had a surge in the use of renewable energies like ambient heat, biomass, wind power, and solar power. Switzerland is nearly self-sufficient when it comes to their electricity production. They also have great air quality because they have about 680 hydroelectric plants, which supplies almost 70% of the electricity that the entire country consumes. Hydroelectric plants have 0 emissions. It's a dam, water runs through it, electricity happens. And stop typing. I know there's a lot more that goes into it than that, but this is a video about Switzerland, not the science behind hydroelectricity. Number 2, location. Switzerland is centrally located in Europe. It's a landlocked country surrounded by some of the greatest nations this world has ever seen. France, Italy, Austria, Germany, Liechtenstein. Yes, Liechtenstein touches Switzerland. And no, you can't move to Liechtenstein. I know you want to. Everyone wants to move to Liechtenstein, but it's not allowed. I know we're talking about Switzerland, but Liechtenstein is one of the hardest countries to become a citizen of. You got to be born there. Switzerland isn't the easiest country to move to either, which is strange because they're really a melting pot. But if you are living in Switzerland, you have access to all these great countries. They're right there, not too far away. Centrally located, it's kind of a big deal to a lot of people. Let's say you're in Zurich, Switzerland, you could drive to Munich in 3.5 hours. Milan's about the same distance, hour flight maybe, 3.5 hours driving. Innsbruck, Austria, you could drive there in 3.5 hours or about an hour flight. If you take the train to these cities, it's about the same amount of time as it is to drive. Now, if you want to go to Venice, that's a little bit of a rough one because you got to drive or take the train through the Alps. That's a 6-hour trip, but you could fly there in an hour. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. It is growing, and I really appreciate all the people that have subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate that. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, it's neutral. Everybody knows Switzerland is neutral. They always have been. They don't really align themselves with anyone, and they stay out of international conflicts. Swiss neutrality is one of the main principles of Switzerland's foreign policy, which dictates that Switzerland is not to be involved in any armed or political conflicts between other countries. The policy is self-imposed and designed to ensure external security and promote peace. This is another reason why a lot of people feel safe leaving their money in Swiss banks. This country is also considered one of the most business-friendly countries in the world, and a lot of that comes from its neutrality. Now, I'm not saying the Swiss are a bunch of cowards or they're pacifists or anything like that. They just don't want to get involved in other people's BS. If you come to the country and decide you want to have a war there, they're more than prepared. Like I was talking about earlier with Johnny Harris going to Switzerland and looking at all those bunkers. That's what they're there for. Dug into the sides of mountains are cannon emplacements from World War II and the Cold War and all that. I'm sure they're updated in a lot of places for national defense, but yeah, they're not afraid of a war. They're just not getting involved in somebody else's war. And believe it or not, there's a good portion of this planet that really likes that approach. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.